SuperBeet Heart Chews claim to support healthy blood pressure and boost energy. The main ingredient is beetroot. Beets are naturally rich in nitrates, which your body converts into a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide helps relax and widen your blood vessels, improving blood flow. Because of this effect, beets have attracted a lot of interest for their potential to support blood pressure and exercise performance. But how you consume beetroot actually matters more than you might think. If you want the benefits seen in research, beetroot juice is usually the form that's used. Most studies rely on beetroot juice rather than powders or supplements. These studies suggest that drinking somewhere between a quarter cup and 2 cups of beetroot juice per day, roughly the juice from 1 to 6 medium beets, is the amount most likely to produce benefits. This brings us to the first issue with SuperBeet Heart Chews. Dose. Roughly speaking, about 10 grams of beetroot juice equals about 1 gram of beetroot powder. Based on the amounts used in research, about 60 to 480 grams would translate to roughly 6 to 48 grams of beetroot powder. SuperBeet Heart Chews provide only 250 milligrams of beetroot powder per chew. That means you'd need at least 24 chews per day just to reach the lowest effective dose seen in studies. Needless to say, that's not a very practical way to get the potential benefits of beetroot. By the way, I review a lot of supplements here, so subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated, and support me on Ko-fi if you enjoy the content. The second issue is the fact they use beetroot powder, which is beetroot that has been dried and ground up. Powders haven't been studied nearly as much as fresh juice, so their effectiveness is less certain. There's also some debate whether powdered beetroot can really replace fresh juice. The drying and processing can reduce the nitrate content and other beneficial compounds, which means the quality and effectiveness of the beetroot powder can vary a lot depending on how it's made. If you want the most reliable benefits, fresh beetroot juice is still the option that's best supported by research. That said, beetroot, mostly in juice form, has shown some interesting effects in human studies. It may help improve endurance and exercise performance by increasing blood flow and making muscles work a little more efficiently. But how strong is the evidence, and what kinds of benefits can you realistically expect? When it comes to blood pressure, beetroot juice does appear to have some modest effects, especially in healthy people. Meta-analyses of clinical studies suggest that drinking beetroot juice can slightly reduce blood pressure. These reductions are fairly small, but they are measurable. The effects also seem to work best when people drink about 2 cups of beetroot juice daily for at least 2 weeks. However, the evidence is much more mixed in people who actually have hypertension. For example, one study using a supplement that contained beetroot found no meaningful improvement in blood pressure. Another study looking at pregnant women with hypertension also found that beetroot juice didn't significantly reduce blood pressure. And in people already taking a blood pressure medication, a week of drinking nitrate-rich beetroot juice didn't lower blood pressure any more than drinking beetroot juice with the nitrates removed. So the bottom line is this: beetroot juice may produce small reductions in blood pressure in otherwise healthy people, but the evidence is much less convincing for people who already have hypertension. Researchers have also looked at whether beetroot could improve overall heart health. Unfortunately, the results here are fairly underwhelming. A meta-analysis of clinical studies found that consuming beetroot does not significantly improve triglycerides or other blood lipid levels compared with control groups. In one small study involving patients with coronary heart disease, beetroot supplementation slightly improved a few measurements of cardiovascular function, but these changes were small and likely not clinically meaningful because they didn't translate into improvements in actual heart health related outcomes. In other words, while beetroot juice might offer modest benefits for blood pressure, the current research doesn't show strong or reliable benefits for improving cardiovascular health. When it comes to athletic performance, beetroot has been studied quite a bit, especially for endurance sports like cycling, running, or swimming. The benefits seem to depend a lot on your fitness level and what type of exercise you're doing. For recreational athletes, beetroot juice can improve certain aspects of aerobic performance, like running endurance and exercise efficiency. Some studies also suggest beetroot juice might slightly reduce muscle soreness and increase pain tolerance, which could make longer regular workouts feel a bit easier. However, those benefits don't seem to carry over to high-intensity anaerobic activities like sprinting or weightlifting. In those types of workouts where short bursts of power matter more than endurance, beetroot juice generally doesn't show much of an effect. Another interesting finding is that the benefits seem to be strongest in recreational or moderately active people, but not in elite athletes. Studies looking at elite cyclists, runners, sprinters, and even professional water polo players have found no meaningful improvement in performance from beetroot juice. One possible explanation is that elite athletes already produce plenty of nitric oxide naturally due to their training, so adding extra nitrates from beetroot doesn't make much difference. Now let's look at the other main ingredient in SuperBeet Heart Chews, grape seed extract. Some research suggests grape seed extract can slightly lower blood pressure, particularly in people with obesity or metabolic syndrome. Most studies use doses of about 200 to 400 milligrams per day, and the benefits usually don't appear until people have been taking it for at least 8 weeks. Even then, the improvements are fairly small. In many studies, grape seed extract slightly lowers diastolic blood pressure, the bottom number, but doesn't significantly affect systolic blood pressure, which is the top number, and generally the more important one for predicting heart disease risk. It's also unclear whether these small changes actually translate into meaningful improvements in heart health. Some studies show that grape products may slightly improve cholesterol numbers, but the effects tend to be small and inconsistent, and they don't appear to meaningfully improve outcomes in people who already have cardiovascular disease. So when you put everything together, the ingredients in SuperBeet Heart Chews, beetroot, and grape seed extract do have some research behind them for blood pressure, but there's a big catch. The doses used in this product are far lower than the amounts typically studied. That means they're unlikely to produce any meaningful effect. And even if the doses were high enough, the improvements seen in research are fairly modest to begin with. In other words, the potential blood pressure reductions from beetroot or grapeseed extract are small, and they're unlikely to significantly improve heart health, especially for people who need it most, such as those with existing cardiovascular risk factors. Rating SuperBeet Heart Chews by effectiveness for lowering blood pressure and improving heart health, I'm giving it a D. The ingredients have been studied before, but the effects are small and the doses in this product are far too low to expect meaningful results. Rating by cost, I'm giving it a D. It's fairly expensive for what is essentially a gummy made with powdered beetroot. Rating for safety, I'm giving it a B. The ingredients and doses used are unlikely to be much cause for concern. Overall rating, I'm giving a D. The best way to think about these chews is as a tasty candy that happens to contain a little extra nutrition, but they shouldn't be viewed as something that will seriously improve blood pressure or heart health. Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Young. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you know someone who could benefit from this, please share it with them. Finally, if you enjoy what we do and want to learn more, consider supporting us on Ko-fi, and be sure to check out our other socials as well.